up, sweetie?
Tell them what it is.
What's going on with y'all tonight, mains? Me and here ready to talk about some freaky shit.
some real freaky, creepy shit. RJ is here as well, but he's producing right now.
Hi guys.
Oh, surprise!
I apologize for any audio issues going on in this one tonight. We had some technical issues right there at the beginning of it, but we're getting our way through it.
It's what happened, folks, is that we're doing a conspiracy theory episode, and the powers that be are trying everything they can to shut down our operation because they don't want the 4 to 6 live viewers to have this information. I might be being a bit generous, but you know, I catch a little grief around here being the conspiracy theory guy, so I thought it would be fun to compile a list for you guys of some theories that even I thought might have been a little out there and kind of get your feedback on it. So I know I'm excited. I might be the only one. These guys are kind of just humoring me here, so hopefully this goes pretty well. I wanted to kind of start with gauging, you know, let the audience know where you guys already stand. I clearly have a reputation for being a nut, so just to prove that you guys are normal, I'm going to ask you what you think about some of the more common conspiracies in the world, see where you're at. So why don't we start off with the easiest one? Everybody's got an opinion on this. Who shot JFK, guys? Who did it?
The mob.
The mob?
From what I've heard and what I've read, I would have to say the CIA had something to do with it, man.
CIA had something to do with it, so at least at this table, we may all be in agreement that it probably wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald all by himself. Well, that's good. Okay, so that...
I don't even think he did it, to be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think
You think he was just happened to be there?
I think he was their little poster boy.
The patsy?
Yeah. I think he was the one that they wanted everyone to think. Because, I mean, just from what I've heard, like, I heard, like, whenever they were bringing him in, like, the day he got shot in the courtroom or the courthouse or whatever, like, he didn't even really remember doing it. You know, like, he didn't remember shit. And I don't know if, like, I don't know, man, like, just that whole situation just seemed really sketchy to me.
That's a really good way not to incriminate yourself, though.
It is, but if you really, like, have you seen or read anything about that guy, how he was? Like, he was an ass, man. I don't see
I'm an
him
ass
just
man,
being,
too, though, and I haven't killed anyone.
I don't see him being
Slowly but
one to
surely
just,
coming to the dark side.
I don't know, man. I think it was a lot deeper than that. I think Linda B might have had a part in it. It wouldn't surprise me.
He has become sort of the popular fall guy, LBJ. It was almost, you know, they waited for him to be out of the... It might have been as soon as he died, where it was just sort of like, oh, yeah, LBJ killed him to take his spot because LBJ and Hoover were allegedly boys. I mean, here was a guy who had enough enemies to where you can really make a good argument for just about anyone. Now, he was quoted, I mean, he had a speech about 2 days before his assassination in which he claimed he was going to smash the CIA into bits and scatter it to the winds. So that kind of lends to your theory. And also when you think of what it takes to have that lax of security for a president, I mean, when have you ever seen a president in an open motorcade like that without his security detail?
Right.
So since we're on the topic, one of the more interesting ones, and this is a multi-parter, but this has to do with JFK. What would you guys think if someone tried to convince you that JFK never died that day?
I couldn't believe it. Just because seeing the video, that dude's head splattered like a watermelon, dude. Like, his brains was blown the fuck out.
And that is fair. Now, I guess what I would count, because obviously I'm going to be the devil's advocate here on all of these, even the ones where it hurts to do so. Well, let's think about, for instance, like, how many times in your life have you seen someone get shot in the head to where you can be like, okay, I know what that looks like, and
Twice.
this is what that looks like. Okay. Because, I mean, that's going to be what the first naysayer would say that's trying to convince you that this is fake is like, well, you know, the majority of us only have what we've seen on the movies to go off of. So with that said, I mean, you're talking about the Zapruder film, which there are some interesting... we'll say there are some interesting details. There are some splicing issues with that tape where you can. It looks like that tape maybe has been tampered with at points in times. I don't have the frames and everything in front of me, but there's a million YouTube videos you can find that will break down the Zapruder film for you. It's a very interesting history behind the Zapruder film and Abraham Zapruder. But there are clear-cut instances where you can tell that at some point someone edited that video. So again, this is what the people behind this theory, their argument is that a dummy, JFK was switched with a dummy that had an exploding device in its forehead, and that the whole idea, and this is where it gets even more insane. So there are two strands. Obviously, I know no one here believes that JFK didn't die there, but let's just humor me for a minute. There are two schools of thought beyond that. One, there's a theory out there that Jimmy Carter at some point was replaced with JFK, that JFK played Jimmy Carter for the rest of his presidency. It's called Project Second Farm. I promise I'm not making this up. Someone else made this up.
It was like good because somebody did.
The second one, which is even more awesome to me, like it makes me want to write this as a novel. So the theory is that JFK was always a part of the elite that he claimed he was going to try to destroy, and that he faked his own death so he could go and run the, quote, I'm doing quotes over here, shadow government. And so this theory runs for the next 30 years because that theory claims then when JFK died in 1968 due to health issues that Robert Kennedy had his assassination staged with Sirhan, another guy you mentioned, sort of like Oswald. Sirhan's defense literally was that he didn't remember doing it. He still to this day maintains he doesn't remember doing it. Like RJ mentioned, a great way to try to get yourself off of it.
You don't have to have any excuses. You don't have to have an alibi. You don't have to explain yourself. You can just be like, I don't remember shit.
Yeah, I
and
didn't
anything
do that.
they ask you, it's just I don't remember. You don't have to worry about covering your own lies.
Yeah,
so easy. That's
exactly.
what I would go for too.
And
If I got blood on my hands, you still got to prove it, man. I
and
don't remember shit.
Exactly. Yeah, prove that I was there. I didn't do shit. I'm not going to tell you if I think I remember anything. And the conspiracy theorists go nuts with it, saying, "Well, he was the movie Manchurian Candidate." So there are some
Good
interesting.
movie, by the way.
It's a great movie, and there are some interesting holes in that theory too. But based on the number of shots fired for there supposedly only being one gunman. The evidence suggests that there were actually two gunmen in the Kennedy assassination. Now, I, again, am operating with the idea that Robert Kennedy died that day. But if you're playing this game with me, so 1968, JFK dies of natural causes. Robert Kennedy fakes his own death and takes over assumption of the shadow government. Fast forward to, 1998, and Robert Kennedy finally passes, and so JFK Jr. fakes his death in a plane crash so he can then run the shadow government. Again, I'm not making this up, but I'm certain that someone made it up. But that, to me, that was my favorite. That's been my favorite one so far. The idea that the Kennedys have been secretly running this world, and that it basically goes on to say that all deaths are fake. Let me ask you, do you guys think Tupac and Biggie are both dead?
Yes.
Yeah?
I do.
I really don't know enough about it. I would just have to assume that, yeah, they're dead because I don't have any reason to believe otherwise. That wasn't Pac's pretty public. I don't know anything about Biggie's, but I thought Pac was on the street.
There were people with them in both instances, I believe. There are eyewitnesses, but eyewitnesses are like assholes.
Yeah. I don't know if Pac could have possibly expected to live off of his success that long after faking his own death. Because there's a lot of people that at that age pop off and do real heavy well for a couple years and then just fall off.
But yeah, but how much? But exactly. But when you die,
okay,
and your
you're
work
only
becomes
known for-
immortal,
okay.
and it's all of a sudden no more. You can't have it anymore.
I could have seen if again, I think he's really dead, but I could see how if Pac was to fake his death, I could see his logic behind it. He wouldn't. He knew his music would become immortalized. He was the hottest thing to happen to hip hop at that point in time, and he knew if he was to go, people would idolize him. They already did, and it's I don't know. I could see why he would have done it. My thing is I'm pretty sure he's dead and honestly, I'm pretty sure Suge Knight killed him. That's my theory on it.
What-
Because Pac was about to leave Death Row. He was done. Suge Knight owed him a lot of money. He wasn't happy. And Suge Knight was like, fuck you. Like, because he had already lost Dr. Dre. He lost Snoop. He was about to lose Snoop. He wasn't trying to lose Pac, too. He was like, it's pretty much one of those things, if I can't have you, nobody can. I'm damn sure Suge Knight killed him.
And I think it's interesting that you say that, because if one of the, I don't know necessarily, one of the pieces of evidence, air quote evidence, used against the idea that Tupac killed himself is a video where someone asked Suge Knight who killed Tupac, and he alludes to the idea that Tupac isn't dead. No one killed Tupac. Or he's like, I didn't kill Tupac. No one killed Tupac. But which is funny. I mean, again, that's what you would say if you killed Tupac. Why wouldn't you deflect and say, "Oh, he didn't die. It's conspiracy." But do you think there's any truth to any of this idea? Because every time a celebrity dies, you hear this. David Bowie died within 3 days of his final album being released. So naturally, of course, that world was just abrupt with the idea that Black Star, that his death was a hoax to sell more albums. George Michael dying on Christmas. The ironic idea of Last Christmas being a super hit, him dying, it's his last Christmas. There's puns galore in that. But so every time someone dies like this, it's instantly like Prince. There are conspiracy theories all around about Prince's death, about it being fake. Basically that certain celebrities, when they, like this is their form of retirement, because there are ideas out there that there are secret places in the world you can go and be famous, and nobody realizes that you're famous because you're in the middle of freaking nowhere where they probably don't even have televisions. And it's inconceivable for us to think that Tupac could ever kill himself and go unnoticed. But I'm certain. I mean, this is a big ass world. There could be somewhere, if somebody wanted to do that and they had the money, it is possible. Are there any celebrity deaths that you guys question at all, where you're like, I don't know, did Kurt Cobain really blow off his face with a shotgun? You guys got any of them out there that just...
That's the only one that I've ever heard that seemed to have some teeth, but I just have other shit to look into than like how a celebrity died, so I've never really gotten too far, and that's not me being like a dick. But I don't know a whole lot about any of them. But yeah, the entire Kurt Cobain killing himself with the shotgun and everything, the way it happened, seems a little fishy, but at the same time, I don't know, man. Not that fishy either. Like, you have to be kind of suicidal to be with Courtney Love to begin with. Or whoever he was with.
Yeah, and then she probably makes it that much worse.
Yeah. Like, I could see her calling him a pussy while he had the shotgun in his mouth. Yeah. But some of us that would just turn on, so...
You don't think I'll do it? I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll blow it off.
So of all the conspiracies that exist of these deaths being fake, there one that is pretty nuts that I know Shawn has heard of before is the idea of a celebrity actually dying and it being covered up for the last 40 years. And that would be the idea that Paul McCartney died in a car wreck in the summer of, I want to say it was 68, I'm paraphrasing, I'm pulling off the top of my head here. But there is a theory out there that before Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band that Paul McCartney had died and was replaced by a look-alike. And there are a couple of different suspects for who that might be that's playing Paul McCartney. But have you guys heard any of this, or do you believe in any of it at all? There are some interesting rabbit holes to go down with this one.
Can we hear the rabbit holes?
Have you ever seen the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the album cover? So there is a little toy white. It's alleged that he died in a white sports car, and there's a little toy white sports car on the album. It's very interesting. There are two pictures of the group, the Beatles, in one which it looks like they're attending a funeral. It's like the old sock hop Beatles when they're in their shirts and ties all the time. Yeah. It's a picture of that, but it looks like they're at a funeral proceeding. And now this last part is actually something that I did with, if you take a mirror and place it in the middle of the drum head, the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band drum head, and you use if you right in the center, if you put a flat mirror down, so it cuts off the bottom half of the words and then makes a word out of the reflection. There's actually an arrow that points to Paul and says like he died. Unfortunately I don't have the album anymore. Actually, an old roommate of mine had the album, and we got drunk one night and fucked around because I had told him about this conspiracy theory, and we were curious, so we played with the mirror, and there actually is I can see how someone would say that. You know, you put it, if you break it in half, it looks like it says he died. There is a little diamond shape. If you want to say that's pointing to Paul, it's right next to Paul. But there are some interesting theories behind there that a guy named Billy Shepherd.
Where's the toy car? Do you have a point of reference here for me to look at?
I would have to get up close and see it, but so if it's right in the middle where if you the Lonely Hearts, if you put the mirror right through that, that would be how you get the image in half. Let me see, but you see what I'm talking about with the left side grouping of the Beatles looking like they're at a procession. There's an interesting fact that Paul went from being, if you look at the two pictures and you look at lots of pictures of the band, Paul went from being the shortest or second shortest member to clearly the tallest member in the band. And this was well after, you know, we don't, like, when was the last time you knew somebody who had a growth spurt at 29 or 30? So he went from being, and there's also the Walrus says, Paul, you've been a naughty boy, you let your face grow long. And they use that as evidence of their theory that Paul McCartney's face kind of changed shape over time.
Nothing to do with a beard.
And then there's the cranberry sauce theory. I can't remember what song that is, but they claim that John Lennon, someone asked John Lennon, they're in this song at the very end of it, it sounds like you're saying, I buried Paul. And the retort was, no, I'm saying cranberry sauce. And so you take all of these little pieces of this theory, but there are two suspects for his replacement. They had lookalikes. That is a known thing. They did have they would often send lookalikes out to the front of a show and sneak the real Beatles into the back. So there's a theory that a Paul McCartney lookalike winner ended up learning to play the guitar, and
they weren't known to be the most talented musicians, really.
And neither really, and Paul kind of, and that was the other thing about Paul is he went from just being, it was almost, so the second theory about Billy Shepherd, which was actually a lead frontman, a left-handed guitarist, and a frontman of a band that used to open for the Beatles. The other theory is that he ended up replacing Paul McCartney because he already was left-handed and already knew how to play an instrument, and that he is the better of the two Paul McCartney. There's a theory out there that says the real Paul died and the one that we got is better, and so we should just be happy about it, but that he is a guy named Billy Shepherd, and that it was enough, and that's why the Beatles had that artistic change. That's why they eventually would break up, because John wasn't calling the shots anymore, and there was actually another talented musician in the group. These not my words. Go ahead.
Who the fuck cares about the Beatles? I mean, everybody, but who the fuck cares enough for there to be all of this conspiracy around it and murder and all that shit?
Well, if you add in
what's the end game of the conspiracy? They just didn't like the direction he was taking the band, so they were just like, "Hey, we're gonna kill him off." You're gonna
no. The theory is that he died in a drunk driving car accident. Like he died. Yeah, he died in a car accident, and they didn't want to lose the Beatles, so they replaced him so that the Beatles could stay the Beatles.
Okay,
and then it's after that point in time where you see all the psychedelic Beatle work, all the real hippie movement Beatle work. They went from being I Want to Hold Your Hand to Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Well,
they did do a lot of drugs. It didn't between those two albums, they went over to fucking India and some other crazy ass shit.
According to Walk Hard, the true story of Dewey Cox, yes.
You
remember that movie?
I'm afraid that's where I don't think that's what I'm
Is that where I'm drawing that from?
Yeah, no, I really don't, though. I think it was maybe from They Sold Their Souls to Rock and Roll, that documentary I had you watch.
Speaking of that documentary, there are two pictures of Aleister Crowley in this album cover as well.
I noticed that. Which makes you wonder why. Like, what the fuck?
Why?
You guys, let's talk about that.
Talk about it, though. It gets everybody likes to look at the occult and think that they know more than everybody and be a part of that underground thing because it makes you feel kind of cool. To me, you plant that shit in there just to make it more interesting. If it was a field of daisies, would it be as interesting? Or if you put some cult references and some conspiracy references and some shit that's outside of that 3x5 index card that like people normally talk about, it's going to draw eyes and it's going to make you talk about it, and it's free publicity. That's why, to me, just because I don't see.
I think it's also part of like what your subconscious has taken in. You know, if you happen to, let's say, Sean, you're a Raiders fan, all right? So you've seen that one-eyed pirate logo your whole life. You've been really into it. So maybe someday when you're looking to design another project, some sort of one-eyed symbolism or some something might come out in your head just because you've seen it so often that like it's where your brain would go to. So I think there are even some of these people that, they do the one eye thing, or they do the 666 fingers over the eye. I think they just see a bunch of people do that and they're like, that shit looks cool and it feels pretty cool to do. You know what? I'm going to do my LP with me staring in a mirror and you can only see one of my eyes because that shit's gangster. They don't know that it means anything, that it might mean something to someone else. But they just do it because that's what everybody does and it's cool, and you're going to mimic what you like. Doesn't necessarily mean that you worship Satan. But this Aleister Crowley thing is interesting because you did have me watch the entire series of They Sold Their Soul to Rock and Roll. And I think it is interesting. Yeah, it was
that
great.
on like a YouTube or?
Yeah.
Oh, it's on like a
YouTube.
YouTube.
Yeah, it was like a paid for
I need
like
to check
thing
that out.
churches would buy and then show to their congregation. But if you look on YouTube, you can find the entire series. There's one of them that it's been muted because of copyright infringement, but there's another one that's like 6 parts instead of 4, and it's not muted. So if you guys have no life, which hey guys,
Which we
live
clearly
listeners, go check this out while you're on the YouTube.
And so the Soul They Sold to Rock and Roll, I wanted to talk to you guys about it a little bit because I watched that thing a long time ago and we never did an episode on it, so I feel like I got to get my time back a little bit here. So the Aleister Crowley thing, David Bowie, Jay-Z, Red Hot Chili Peppers. I mean, I'm sure there are more, but these are people you can tie direct lines to Aleister Crowley without, like, you don't even have to try. Jay-Z's clothing line has a hoodie that says "Do as thou wilt" on it, which was Crowley's catchphrase, which in a way Aleister Crowley kind of like is the father of the hippie movement because he was one of the first ones to be like you do whatever, literally do what you want, fuck what you want, fuck who you want, when you want. Like that's the Bible thumpers really hated the hippie movement for that. They thought it was legitimately the Luciferian movement. So anyway, David Bowie took pictures in an exact replica of some pictures Aleister Crowley took in the same wardrobe and everything. So they're clearly emulating this guy. You guys think there's anything to that? Is that like, do you think they're actually Satanists, or do you think
Makes you talk about him.
you think it's just to get
to be that guy? I guess.
You think it's just like they go through all of that just to like they'll read this guy's books and put his because I can see the pictures and stuff, but we can't deny as Christian as that video was that we watched, as much as it was meant to tell us that these guys are worshiping Satan, you can't deny that there are some groups out there that actually put some time and effort into looking up what this guy was teaching. I'm not saying they're all Satanists either, but do you guys think there's some sort of like dark? Think there's really is a dark musical cult, or is it like RJ says, where it's simply just for us to think about it, so we talk about it, and people who do worship Satan will buy their albums?
No, I definitely think there is a bull in the way. I definitely think there is a group who runs the entertainment world behind the scene. I really do.
Did you say that I think that it's just so people that are into the occult will buy their album?
No.
Oh,
I said
okay.
no. I said that you said it was just to have some mystery to get them to talk about it, and that a side effect would that be like that they're not in the occult, maybe, but people that want to be in the occult would buy their music. That was me saying that.
Oh, okay. I got you.
That it's just a byproduct, because that's the other thing I think we have to think about. If they are doing it just to be cool or fit in, then that means that's what they think will sell the most records, which means that they think that we are all Satanists then.
I don't think it has anything to do with them thinking what there's. I think it literally they're like, okay, somebody's going to bring up that this is Satanist, so it's going to get circulated, and then somebody's going to look up my music, not because they're interested in Satanism, because people are talking about me.
That's fair.
Just like people like looked up Trump after he'd say something fucking crazy.
Yeah.
It's just
There is no such thing as bad publicity.
Yeah,
If
so-
2016 has taught you one thing,
Would you rather him like, or not? Would you rather, but like
Can
him
we play
wearing
that game next?
an American Eagle shirt isn't going to get him any new views for being outside that line. But wearing something that says "Do as Thou Wilt," anybody who's not a Satanist is still going to dig that line. And then anybody that's kind of into the cult, or anybody that's parents are like into church and they see that shit, now they're talking about it, so they're getting heard about again. So it's why wouldn't you put something on there?
yeah, that's fair. And I think it's also fair to mention that a cult, people draw a line between a cult and Satanism all the time, and a cult literally just means secret. It doesn't mean it's devil worshipping. It doesn't mean pagan.
Okay.
A cult, just for that thing too, is maybe people claim Crowley was a Satanist. I don't know. I've never read the guy's stuff. He read a poem about a woman named Celia farting, so that's not worshiping Lucifer. That's worshiping a woman's asshole, literally. But that's not
That
the
may
devil.
as well be worshiping. Lucifer. It's not the butt stuff.
I have another one. I hope we're going to argue on this one. I don't know, but Shawn, we talked about it briefly. You mentioned The Shining and the Apollo 11 references in The Shining about Stanley Kubrick possibly.
Yeah.
It's a pretty common one. Stanley Kubrick filmed the moon landing. What do you guys think? Have we been to the moon ever? Do you think we went to the moon then?
I don't think so.
If we went to the moon, were we filming it?
I don't think so.
This is the first like conspiracy I ever like got into that made me like question shit. Was the moon landing? Because I was reading about. I've always been in politics, and I would like take my lunch in the library and just play on the computer. And somehow or other, I ended up on AboveTopSecret.com. And you run like conspiracy circles. You've probably been there before. And,
Yep.
like I ended up in the forums and shit. And like I started reading about the moon landing, and there is just so much evidence. I don't even think it's physically impossible for us to get to the moon. I really don't. I don't buy into that yet, but there's a lot of evidence to say that like they had every reason to just not bother going to the moon and fake it. At the end of the day, and back then I don't know that they had the technology. I completely believe it now just by the aircraft we have now. I mean, we're launching satellites into space like it's what's the word I'm looking for? It's no big deal anymore. You know what I mean? It's,
Yeah.
It's routine. That's the word I'm looking for. Like, yeah, there's risk involved, and yeah, they lose some, but it doesn't surprise me at all. Unless you buy into the flat earthers that airplanes are just flying around and that there is no satellites.
And that there's a dome over the sky?
Yeah. But, yeah, I completely believe we can get there now if we really cared, but it's why would you? It costs so much money. Nothing for us to believe that we could do anything there with it.
And then, well, and that's the other thing is why would you go if you could fake it? And if you do a YouTube search of, news reports with green screens, your mind will be blown at how often CNN is not in France. They are in their studio with a green screen on. And when you start seeing it enough times, your eyes kind of get trained to where you can kind of notice the slight difference in depth that proves that someone is not actually there, that they're just there's a television screen playing behind them. And so just think about all the money, the budget to fly to the moon. Like if they didn't actually bother all of those Apollo 11 trips, like just think about how much money they got to just pocket.
Yeah.
Like if you start looking at the Apollo 11, like the land Humvees and how much they cost to make, just that alone. Like if all they actually did was strip a Jeep down and go film it in a Hollywood basement, that they made like $5 million a pop on each of those bad boys, and that's in $60s dollars.
Well, there was a lot of covert ops going on in the 60s, too. So to get the public excited to throw money at a program
Right.
and then just do it on a stage and get to like throw that money where you actually want to, it all makes sense to me. And again, they might have went to the moon. To me, it's not that hard to believe that simpler machines could also do it. Just mechanical machines, and then just because it's coordinates. You know what I mean? There's a lot of math involved, but if you have the stuff that can do that math, I don't know. It's not that hard to believe. I know they say like a Casio calculator or whatever has the same amount of like computing power as what was on that.
But if you have the thrusting power, and
Yeah.
that's all you need is that simple,
Yeah.
basically you just need to stay
You're
on
turning.
track.
You're
Yeah.
fucking turning.
Yeah,
So it's not that impossible because we literally graph charts with Casio calculators.
yeah.
Okay, so you're graphing a chart and then turning not a rudder, but you're turning the jet okay, cool. It's just not that, I don't know.
I'm with you
It
that
could
it's
go either way.
conceivable.
Yeah.
I think one of the more interesting. Do you guys help me out here? Which Apollo mission was it where they exploded on takeoff?
11?
No, 11 was the one where they actually went to the moon.
13?
13 was the one where that they made a movie about with Tom Hanks.
I'm going to keep guessing, but we have Google. It's just a lot more fun for me to be wrong about every
While you find
only
it,
name successful ones.
while you find it, well, this is because I do want to. The moon, Sean, you're just above it. You don't
Challenger
think it happened?
exploded.
Yeah, the Challenger. That there's a theory
Apollo
out there
1.
that was a hoax and that none of those astronauts died, and then they show pictures of these old people that they claim are and they do side by sides and all this stuff, saying that was just a show, that no one actually died, that it was just an empty shuttle that was taken off. And to me, that would be one where my first question was why. What is the point? Why would you fake that? What does anyone stand to gain from watching a shuttle explode on national television? Those are the ones where I'm like, this makes no sense to me. Because
What was going on at the time of the news? What?
well, that would, I guess, would have to be
national tragedy
your first question. Yeah, it would be, what is it, a big distraction op? Because outside of that, whenever I hear these theories, that's my first question: is who would benefit from that even happening? And then see if that person would at all, or a group of people would be able to make it possible.
Yeah.
With the moon landing, it makes a lot of sense. It's the only conspiracy theory in the history of conspiracy theories that actually like made things better for people.
Yeah, it has a start and like a finish that both are conceivable and make sense and fit a timeline. Also, it was the Apollo 1 that exploded. 3 astronauts were killed.
Very first one, yeah, okay.
The more you know.
And was that a sacrifice to the sun god Apollo? No.
What if that's what it was? What if this is all part of the cult and the Illuminati were like, okay, we're not doing it right anymore. We got to start actually sacrificing motherfuckers. We got to get them a little closer. Just a little closer. We got to get them up there before we do it.
Right. Gotta, yeah, get them up
So they
to
find the three most
literally
fit,
send them to
pure
the sun.
human beings with the best diets and the best physical shape of their lives and get them as close to the sun as they're physically capable of and then just blow them up.
And that's what the Russians were doing with all those dogs and missing cosmonauts.
Some ancient Egyptian shit.
Yeah, just sending them up to God, sending them up to Ra.
I like it. I like it a lot.
So that. Let's see. I think I've got. Oh, I got another one. Maybe you guys haven't heard this one before. This one was new to me. I believe it was yesterday. I watched a video about Albert Einstein not being a genius and about the real genius being his wife, whom he would at one point eventually divorce. And then he went on to marry someone else. But the claim was that his theory of relativity actually had his wife's signature on it at one point. Alleged this theory. What would you guys think? Do you think they would fake a genius? I mean, obviously it's a different time now.
Well, we do.
But back then it'd be weird, right? Would it have been taboo to have a woman be the smartest scientist? And so they just made Albert Einstein like the poster boy, the mad scientist.
No, Curie. What's her tits?
What's her tits?
Marie
That you
Curie,
use that one too
whatever the
often.
fuck her name is. The one that like killed herself with radiation poisoning. She gets a lot of credit. And
to me, it was one where I asked that.
Get away with peanut butter.
Yeah. Well, Nikola Tesla, they may or may not have killed him. Yeah, but he was trying to give away energy for free, so that's a big no-no. No one fucks with J.P. Morgan's nut. The person, not the industry, of course. So that was another one. I didn't think there was much weight to that
about it to really have an opinion.
What would you do?
I don't know, man.
Do you look, for instance, it's almost based on like what your thought is. Do you believe in this idea? Maybe that's where we'll wrap it up. Is just this. We've joked about the Illuminati several times. The New World Order. Pappy Bush referenced it in a very popular speech. Bill Clinton's referenced it in multiple speeches. Do you believe in that whole New World Order Illuminati agenda? Do you believe there's secret things going on? And
because they're not even quiet about it.
Yeah. But again, is that just part of the distraction game?
I mean, I'm not really allowed to talk about it.
I understand.
The first rule of Illuminati Fight Club is
Do not talk
pizza.
about it.
You're probably a pedophile. The second rule is you don't talk about it. They really should have changed the order, but that's just how it goes. And you can ask Anthony Weiner's ass about that.
I'm laughing more that you said probably than anything.
Do you buy into it?
Buy into what? Yeah,
you're more.
You hear
I
them
think
reference the New World Order. I don't think liberals and statists are quiet about the New World Order, or Republicans for that matter, that are war hawks and want to like establish control and democracy or whatever the fuck they want to call it. So it's not necessarily they could be benevolent kings or they could be complete fucking Hitlers, and they still want a new world order and they want to like shape the world. So yeah, there's probably 70,000 different conspiracies for a new world order, all competing with each other. Not 70,000. It's probably like a few dozen.
Yeah, though there's
But-
definitely
Yeah,
Like-
Kim Jong-un has a vision for the new world order.
Look me in the eye and tell me the Roman Catholic Church doesn't secretly wish they ruled the world.
You started out with look me in the eye. I was hoping it was going to go several different places.
Yeah.
And then you said Roman Catholic Church, and I got real excited.
Mm-hmm.
Downhill.
But I mean, I think they'd be cool with it if they had influence over the whole world's religion. I think they wouldn't be
They've
like,
tried.
no, bro, I don't want that.
And then, like, if you go to church, they talk about influencing your politicians, calling your congressman, getting these people, like, all that. Yeah, everybody has an agenda.
Yep.
So, yeah, I completely buy into a conspiracy that there's a new world order or two club.
All right. Well, I guess I'll part with one last question for you guys because it's the only it's happening this month, and this is another one that is really fun.
Are you pregnant?
Yes.
That's conspiracy.
With a clone. I'm actually there's just the next version of me is almost ready in the lab. This one's a little faulty.
Fair.
Do you guys think that Donald Trump will be sworn in as president? Because there are some fun conspiracy theories about martial law coming, and we're like 2 weeks away from this. For those of you who have been ignoring it and just being like, no, this isn't real. This isn't real. I'll wake up.
For 60 Grits relaunch then.
Yeah,
Thank you for telling me that.
the 21st. So the 20th, people are thinking something will happen between now and the 20th that would give a reason for a state of emergency that would allow our current president to stay, because we do those powers are those that has been passed into law. The emergency powers have been reinforced over and over again. It is technically possible to go into an emergency FEMA government, but the theory is that evil Antichrist Obama is going to do that within the next 2 weeks, and that we'll be in World War III with Russia and China and some place called Aleppo I've never heard of. Thoughts?
What's an Aleppo?
It's a mix between a llama and alpaca.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Dude, those are some fierce warriors. I've heard about those.
Terrible
Really
milk,
should not
though.
fuck with
Just
them.
terrible milk.
What they do to their women is phenomenal and horrid, but what they do to their boys, that's where these...
I have one
Aleppo's
theory
get me.
I would like to throw out there before
What was
we
the
close it
question
out.
before we close it out?
All
I'm
right.
sorry.
What question?
I forget what his question was.
Oh, let's. I'll save mine. I want to hear what
Okay.
Sean B's is.
There's been speculation that the real Kevy Kev died in a car crash about 3 years ago. He was hit by a semi, and a lot of people think maybe he was replaced by a little clone Kevy. And I gotta say, dude, I don't know, man. There's some things I've noticed differences that old Kevy Kev wouldn't have had.
like
old
that birthmark?
Old Kevy Kev didn't have a temper. New Kevy Kev has a radical temper. Old Kevy Kev, I'm not, you know,
a
this,
traumatic brain injury, Sean?
huh?
A traumatic brain injury changing a person a little?
It wouldn't have changed Kev, the real Kev.
Oh.
This dude was unchangeable.
He was
So,
out
I
of it.
mean, it's
Like
just
that Bruce Willis movie, but a lot more boring.
Yeah. Yeah, there's always that
And
theory,
passive.
a
man.
lot less working out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot more just.
I mean, he was gone for a month and a half. You know, that's plenty of time to groom the new replacement. You know what I'm saying? And get him familiar with, you know, the situation he was going to be in. And you know, there's plenty of I can see it, dude.
Yeah.
I'm on to you, clone.
I had only heard of him before the accident. I'd never met him.
Yeah.
And then I saw him once when he was in recovery. Didn't you have like some metal in your leg or some shit? Or your arm?
Yeah, I still do.
Okay.
And possibly an RFID chip. There's this weird lump in my wrist that has never gone away post-surgery. Yeah. So my theory on it is that, yeah, I'm a clone. Either that or a reptilian hybrid like they talk about in Genesis. I think...
we have whiskey. We have a fucking knife. I wish we had a camera. Let's.
Oh no, I
Jason Bourne
can't.
Shit.
I can't.
You
I'm
hold his arm
afraid.
down.
I'm afraid of what I find.
Will you like put something in his mouth, Christy, for him to like bite? It's fine. It's sterilizing enough. That's all that matters. We'll heat up the blade. Kevin.
Yeah.
This could break open.
I've seen Blade Runner. I know how this ends.
I haven't, and I don't.
It doesn't end well for me. It never ends well for the clone. But see how I imagine it is, I was my mom's firstborn, and Dad just had to do something to make sure she didn't go nuts because I have a little brother that still needs raised. Now I imagine when this model, if anything happens to me after Dean is 18, I imagine that there will be no new replacements. But I don't remember a lot of my childhood, so who am I to say I'm not a clone? I don't remember a lot of stuff. I think I just got smacked in the head too hard by a semi, but Shawn might be right. Who knows?
All right. You never know. It's the fun with theories, man.
I really want you to get like super paranoid schizo one night and just go
One
dig it in
night,
your
he
arm
says.
and like pull it out, and it's like one of those. Have you ever seen like the microfilms? It's just like a stack of microfilm, and you're like, oh my god, this is real. And then you like start reading the microfilms, and it's just like, haha, gotcha.
Yeah.
You thought there was something in your arm.
Or it's like time. It's like from the hospital, time for a checkup or something.
Have you been taking your medicine?
I bet you need stitches.
It's just the doctor that gave birth to you's like phone number.
Ooh.
He's like, repeat customer discount or some shit. I don't know, man.
It would explain, all the extra birth certificates and stuff. But so since I am a clone, my question, RJ, for you guys was, do you think we are going to live to see the Trump presidency?
Dude, if the racist, in quotation marks, the racist America that voted Trump in could deal with Obama's 8 years, 2 inaugurations, one of them, like 3 inaugurations, technically. He survived all of them. I don't really think anybody's going to kill Trump.
Right. No, I don't think anybody's going to kill him, but... and I don't think any of this will happen. But the theory is more along the line, less along the lines of an assassination, and more along the idea of, well, HARP is going to generate this big old storm or flood, and then we're going to be on some natural emergency, or the Russians who on not too long ago had that nuclear drill where they put like their entire country in a basement for some sort of
they were doing drills.
Those drills that there's going to be some sort of, as they would call it, a nuclear war hoax that would get us to be in a natural state of emergency, and then Obama would get the FDR treatment. And there are people in the country who would want that. I've heard the argument where people say, "Well, I would rather us just go into martial law." They are so scared of Trump, they would rather have President Obama have a limitless term until they can figure something else out. Those people exist out there, and they go on YouTube and make conspiracy theory videos.
Good for him. What would we do without him?
Yeah, and it's because of you I exist. So thank you, YouTubers. And that is all I have. The list never ends, so I'd like to bring you guys on, maybe Lou, especially Nate, sometime soon, and really dig into some of these topics. But I appreciate you guys. You guys were good sports.
Yeah, dude, I had fun.
Thank you.
Anytime, sir.
Definitely interesting topics on there.
Yeah, for sure.
For shizzle.
If you're listening to us on SoundCloud, check out the YouTube feed next time, because we do have video that shows some of the stuff we're looking at here and there on it, which is kind of nice.
Upgrades.
Did want to add that to it. Shawn, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Just keep rocking and rolling, man.
Right on. And how do they
That's a
find you?
fucking Boogie Nights reference.
It is.
Well,
Glad
isn't
you
that
called
funny
it.
Dirk
because
Diggler over
Glad you
here. I'm
called
not
it.
just going to let you slide out like that.
isn't your Twitter like S Boogie? So
S Boogie. underscore 614.
I feel like there's some Boogie Nights
Yeah.
undertones to all of Sean.
I feel like Sean had a crush on Mark Wahlberg as a kid, and he's just a little too shy. He's not comfortable enough yet to admit it on the air, but that's okay.
That's fair.
We'll get there someday.
They wonder why they call him a nut job.
Kev, you're at my boy Kev on the Twitter.
Yep, that is my Twitter handle for now. You guys can find us. The Bad Dinner Guest, at Bad Dinner Guest, a good Twitter handle to find all of us, figure out what we're doing. And the blog, Bad Dinner Guest with an s.blogspot.com. You got some new short fiction up there, a little short story by Sean B.
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
right?
some guy we know just posted a short story. Check it out.
Yeah, actually, I'll put the blog up here. Which one? I like.
It's called I Gotta Pee.
I just got to pay.
There it is. That's funny. That's sweet. Cool. I got nothing to add, so y'all have a good night at 60 Grit Radio on the Twitter.
Dream of me.